Hare Krishna. So it's my great pleasure to have here with me Devamrta Maharaj. Devamrta Swami is a New Zealand guru, and he has been dedicating his life to the Bhagavad Gita, yoga, spiritual life for 50 years now, under the guidance of the great spiritual master A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And he's traveling the world, he's been traveling the world all these years teaching Bhagavad Gita wisdom and of course practicing it. So it's our great chance now to be able to hear from him about a couple of things. So thank you very much, Maharaj, for giving us this interview.
What shall we talk about?
Well, my first question, last weekend a white supremacist killed 50 people and injured another 20 in New Zealand. In your view, what can an ordinary citizen do to prevent such atrocities? What's our role in changing society to avoid such tragedies?
We can deal with this situation in terms of ordinary measures which any human society should adopt. Obviously, gun safety, gun control is absolutely necessary.
Right.
The amount of persons who died in that massacre exceeded the murder total for New Zealand for the whole year.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes. So you can understand how shaken the people are. We can go deeper, though. Besides the obvious of gun control, you're dealing with extreme body identification, the yogis would say. Body identification so much so that it's become a be-all and end-all. And as long as people take shelter of such superficial designations, the illusion that they are experiencing individually and the illusion that's gripping materialistic society will simply deepen and worsen.
How do you mean? What do you mean by that, Maharaj?
Because you're not the body, you're not the mind, the yoga text will explain, the more you take shelter of that illusion, the more bewildered you become. It's not like you can just stick one foot in it and that's all. No, the more you identify with the body as the self and the reason for your existence, the deeper into illusion you submerge yourself.
So these people, were they identifying with their body by being a white supremacist? That by definition is clearly identifying with the body?
Yes, and even making a gospel out of it. It gives a false sense of meaning in life, that I am this type of body, and that means those who I deem similar to my body I embrace, and those who are different I reject to the point of hating them.
Right.
And now my life has a purpose.
All right. He's driven by that purpose.
Yes, yes. Before I was feeling powerless, before I was feeling insignificant, overlooked, but now I can feel the power of raw ethnocentrism flowing through my veins. Yeah, and so from that nonsense, only tragedy can result.
Right. And why do you think there is a rise in white supremacy? There is a rise in racism. We're seeing a bit of that, aren't we? I mean, in many countries, in my country, in Brazil, we're seeing a bit of that. In America, and now we saw it in New Zealand. Why is this, do you think?
Because we spiritualists have failed to give knowledge of what is beyond the body and mind. So we should take the blame also.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. We haven't done our job sufficiently. We haven't educated people as to their identity beyond the body and mind.
Right.
And therefore the people are just left in the clutches of body fever, and they try to get meaning in that way.
That's a very good point. Excellent perception. Thank you very much. On a different point, the last 4 years have been the hottest in recorded history. What role can the spiritual yoga wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita play in helping humanity avoid ecological catastrophe?
This is a very important question, and it involves intergenerational tyranny. That we will destroy the future for our children and grandchildren because we won't be around to deal with it. And in fact, we can excuse ourselves by saying, well, in the future, the children of today, the adults of tomorrow, will discover a solution.
They'll figure it out.
They'll, as always, human beings do that. And so we excuse ourselves. We're very afraid to stop economic growth because that is the predominant religion. Whatever happens, the economy has to continue growing. So therefore, although the knowledge about climate change is there, and we're experiencing the effects, we blot it out of our consciousness in terms of an inability to take sufficient action. And so now you have all over the world kids rising up and making protests and demonstrations. Hey, you guys, you're screwing up our future.
Right. But what can we do? How does yoga spirituality become a part of this, of the solution?
Because unless you can reduce artificial needs, you'll not make an impact in changing human society, and it's human society that is destroying the environment.
Oh, so you're talking about reducing needs, like just buying less, minimalism?
When you understand that you're different from the body and mind, your ecological footprint decreases. Our attempts to be happy all have a footprint. So we like to talk about ecological footprint, but we can also speak about the happiness footprint.
Oh, happiness footprint.
Yes.
What's that? I've never heard
Your ordinary attempts, innocent attempts to be happy, make an impact. So if you are trying to situate yourself on the spiritual platform, your thrust at using the earth and other living entities decreases. Your satisfaction is coming from a different dimension.
Right.
If you think you're the body and the mind, you feel justified to do whatever necessary to satisfy that body and mind. But you're not the body and mind. Therefore, you've yoked yourself to a futile struggle that will never bring satisfaction. So what happens then is, because we have these artificial desires, which can't be fulfilled because they're artificial, we just go on and on and on. What behavioral economists call the hedonic treadmill, the hedonistic treadmill. So unless you deal with the artificial identity of the human being, which leads to artificial desires, there won't be any environmental solution.
That's very good. Can you give a practical example of your students and what changes do they introduce to their life that would, have a ecological impact, a reduction of their footprint, as it were?
Well, first of all, their diet. That's an obvious one. Most persons who are spiritually inclined understand the role of eating in terms of how it affects your own consciousness and also its impact on the environment.
Right.
But just by focusing on your spiritual needs, automatically you lessen your hunger for material gratification.
Yeah.
So again, I want to emphasize that hunger for material gratification is insatiable. So therefore you have to just keep trampling the earth. You tell yourself, well, what else are we supposed to do? And even when you try to control yourself because of a lack of a higher experience, you don't persist. This is what Krishna explains in the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Unless you get a superior experience of reality, you're not going to give up the inferior experience.
Right. Right. That's a very good point. Thank you very much, Maharaj. One last question on a different topic. Would you say that the new generation reaching adulthood now, the kids in college now, people in university, would you say that they're more spiritual than they were 10 years ago? Are you seeing is there like a graph? Is there some sort of like movement here in this regard?
Well, what country would you be talking about in particular?
I would just start saying in general, Western countries in general, because you travel a lot.
Yes.
You're a global trotter. So
Yeah.
what would you say, like in general? Or tell me if you feel that it's more specific to certain countries.
I speak a lot at universities in the USA, and there you have the stress monster devouring university students. Yes. There are two things that are unique to the USA. The load, the burden of student debt,
Yes.
and the feeling of insecurity. Like, what's going to happen? My prosperity is not guaranteed. What happened to the dream? You know the joke about that, probably.
What?
Why do they call it the American dream?
Why?
Because you have to be asleep to believe it. So it's very destabilizing to know that your generation is going to be the first one to experience the dream has gone bust.
Oh no.
And then you've got this huge student debt burden. And so stress is such a load that there's no comparison to the past.
Is this different in Europe, for example?
The debt burden, as for students, will vary. For example, Australia, New Zealand, they're social welfare states. But the insecurity is still there. The insecurity that what's going to become of me? What's going to become of the world?
Is this making them more spiritual or just desperate or taking the drugs? What's your view on this? What are you seeing?
It's opening them up to a different kind of activism. That we have to do something. What can we do that will really make a difference? They're becoming more and more open to that, whether in the USA, Australia, New Zealand. And another factor is the hedonism, the hookup culture. They've done it all.
Is this good or is this bad?
Well, experience is the best teacher. You know the other half of the mantra?
What?
Because a fool will learn no other way. Yes. So in the process of burning yourself out, you are damaging yourself. But at least you may come to the realization that this is all not worth it. It's the same old, same old. And that's happening more and more.
Oh, yeah. Are they understanding that there's just so much joy and pleasure you can get out of bodily identification, hedonism, and they're searching for something else?
Yes. What I explain to them, what I point out is that, hey, you're 21. Guess what? You've done practically everything that you possibly could do for the rest of your life. You've already done it. And what else is there to life? Then what you've already done. You've done the party scene, the intoxication, the lust affairs. All you can look forward to is those same things done in different places at different levels of income. They think, wow.
Depressing.
Depressing, but also it's liberating to start thinking in this way.
Eye-opening.
Yes, eye-opening. So this environmental mess that we're in is causing some persons, not all, to really want to get to the foundation of the whole problem.
Are you seeing this connection between environmental and
yes,
the whole
yes,
and this rebirth, this increase of spirituality?
yes, definitely. There's a correlation. And then you have the other of the apocalyptic twins. You have nuclear weaponry.
Oh, do they worry about that in general?
More and more it's happening as countries armed with nuclear weapons start discarding treaties one after another, as is happening now.
Right.
So then you are caught between these two disastrous twins. On the one hand, environmental catastrophe. On the other hand, the nuclear threat. When you think about it, human beings really need to reorientate themselves.
Yeah.
They need to start thinking about a different kind of civilization, one that doesn't worship at the altar of economic growth.
Lest we destroy ourselves.
Yes. So it's a very interesting time, and more, the ancient yoga wisdom can play a greater and greater role.
Do you think that also this new generation, because of the internet, because there's so much information out there, so many videos, do you think they're learning, they're becoming wiser just because they've seen people, it's been documented now, like people trying to have, fun from the outside in, just trying to sense pleasure. They're seeing that doesn't work because it's so documented now. There's so much out there. People can see like, yeah, that doesn't work. That lifestyle, that failed. That attempt to be happy with just the job and the fun and the people have been doing it on a planetary scale now, and it's been documented for now so many decades, and they say, yeah, this doesn't work, because then those same people say, yeah, no, this didn't work. Do you think there's some sort of learning curve that's happening because of this massive interconnectivity of the internet and social media?
Materially, they've burned themselves out. Everyone knows everything about hedonism and been there, done that, now what?
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're afraid of religion.
Yeah.
Religious belief, oh my God. You can just imagine yourself. You're walking down the street and from up above, someone drops a bucket of paint on you. That's what it's like to be hit with religion. I was minding my own business and all of a sudden, what do you want me to believe? Oh my God. There's even the popular mantra, the popular prayer. Dear God, protect me from your followers. So, organized religion really has a bad rap these days.
For a good reason?
Well, again, going back to your original inquiry, religion has failed to educate people about how they're different from the body. That basic spiritual foundation is missing, whether you call yourself a Christian, Jew, Muslim, this, that, the other, whatever. The basic foundation of genuine spiritual knowledge is you're different from your body. Just like, for example, in the Bible, it's presented that Jesus said, love thy neighbor as thyself. But in practicality, we see, love thy neighbor as thyself as long as thy neighbor looks like thyself. And if thy neighbor looks different, well then, let the neighbor go to hell. So we see that religion has failed to distinguish itself from ethno-nationalism, ethnocentrism, and therefore people haven't made any spiritual advancement in spite of their belief system. So young people today see that belief systems haven't made any real difference.
Right, and they think that's part of the problem.
Yes, so therefore...
because they look around and they see terrorism and they see Middle Eastern countries going to hell, and
they see fanatical
past or horrible past,
fanaticism, fanatical evangelicism, and they see all that, and hey, no way do I want to be hit with religion.
Yeah.
I was just speaking at University of Melbourne last week which is the prestige premier university in Australia. And 600 students came for my talk. And I always reassure them, nowhere in Bhagavad Gita does Krishna ask you to believe. Everywhere in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna presents methodology, process, and then points out the results you'll get if you follow the process. So I asked the students, isn't that fair? They nod their heads. Okay, fair enough. No belief.
Yeah. That's the difference, isn't it? And yoga is all about knowledge. It's all about explaining reality. And then, look, this is what's best. If you understand reality, you'll do what's best.
Yes, yes. And you reap the practical results of transforming your lifestyle.
And you experience that in happiness, not in some future promise of you actually live a different life. You experience it, don't you?
It's a very good point. The future. In Bhakti Yoga, by looking at the future and focusing upon it, you're also transforming the present and the past. So it's not like you're lost in the future and therefore you've neglected the present moment and your past traumas which are affecting the present moment. No, by understanding what your future should be and what the goal should be for your life, your present becomes transformed and also your past becomes transformed.
That's a very good point. Very good. Well, thank you so much, Maharaj. Is there something else? Any last words you'd like to, last messages?
Now is the time for those with yoga wisdom, spiritually minded persons. Now's the time for us all to come together and take the world to a much higher level.
That's my dream too. Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.